Sarah and John had been best friends since high school. They shared everything with each other: secrets, struggles, and successes. But as they entered their mid-20s, John noticed a shift in their dynamic. Sarah started to call him at all hours of the night, expecting him to be available to listen to her problems, no matter how trivial. John found himself getting more and more tired, resentful, and frustrated with Sarah's constant demands. Eventually, he had to put his foot down and set some boundaries around their friendship. John's experience is not uncommon. You'd have your friend calling you at all hours of the night to rant about their latest relationship issue, or maybe they constantly show up uninvited at your house without prior notice, or perhaps they are always asking you to lend them money or to cover for them when they skip work or class. If any of these scenarios sound familiar, you're not alone. Many of us struggle with setting boundaries in our friendships, whether it's due to fear of hurting our friends' feelings, guilt, or simply not knowing where to start. However, setting and maintaining healthy boundaries in friendships is crucial for our overall well-being and the health of our relationships. In fact, according to a study published in the Journal of Social and Personal Relationships, people with clear and well-communicated boundaries in their relationships experience less stress, anxiety, and depression, and are more satisfied with their relationships compared to those who don't set boundaries. But what exactly are boundaries? Boundaries are the limits and guidelines that we set for ourselves and others in order to establish what is acceptable behavior and what is not. In friendships, boundaries can be anything from how often we communicate with our friends to the kind of topics we feel comfortable discussing with them. They can also include physical boundaries such as personal space and touch, as well as emotional boundaries such as our feelings and opinions. The problem is that many of us are not taught how to set boundaries, especially in friendships. We often assume that because we are close friends with someone, they should automatically know what our boundaries are without us having to spell them out. This can lead to frustration, resentment, and ultimately, the breakdown of the friendship. So, how do we set and maintain healthy boundaries in friendships? Let's start with some practical tips. 1. Be clear and specific. When setting a boundary, it's important to be clear and specific about what you need. Avoid vague language and get to the point. For example, instead of saying, "I need some space," try saying, "I need some alone time this week to recharge." 2. Use I statements. Using I statements can help avoid blame and defensiveness. For example, instead of saying "you're always calling me at inconvenient times," try saying, "I find it hard to talk on the phone after 9 p.m. as I feel tired and sleepy at that time." 3. Use humor. Setting boundaries doesn't have to be a serious or uncomfortable conversation. You can use humor to lighten the mood and make the conversation more enjoyable. For example, "I'm sorry, I can't lend you money this time. My bank account is currently on a diet." 4. Respect the boundaries of others. Just as we expect our own boundaries to be respected, we must also respect the boundaries of others. If a friend tells us they need some space or are not available to talk, we should respect that and not take it personally. It's important to point out that setting boundaries doesn't mean cutting off your friend or being selfish. It simply means having a healthy balance in the relationship and respecting each other's needs and wants. The importance of setting boundaries is that it can prevent burnout and resentment, increase trust and respect between friends, and ultimately lead to stronger, healthier relationships. When we establish clear and specific boundaries, we communicate our needs and expectations to our friends, creating a mutual understanding and respect for each other's boundaries. As the saying goes, good fences make good neighbors. However, setting boundaries in friendships can be challenging, especially if we are used to being people pleasers or have a fear of confrontation. It's important to remember that setting boundaries is not a selfish act, but rather an act of self-care and respect. As author and researcher Brené Brown once said, "Boundaries are simply the distance at which I can love you and me simultaneously." So let's make a commitment to ourselves and our friendships to set and maintain healthy boundaries for the benefit of all involved. If you found this video helpful, please share it with your friends and spread the importance of setting boundaries in friendships. Thanks for watching. More wisdom, more solution, better life.